Is calling everything trauma helping us? Or is it actually preventing us from growing? The conversation, I believe, needs to shift from trauma to impact. Right? So what is the impact? Everything has become traumatizing these days. My boss yelled at me. It's trauma. Someone disagreed with my point of view. I'm offended. They're being abusive. Lock them up in jail. Somebody didn't invite me to a party. They're bullying me. We've turned everything about daily life experience into trauma. But is calling everything trauma helping us? Or is it actually preventing us from growing? I mean, imagine calling every bruise, every scrape, every scratch a broken bone. Pretty soon, you're afraid to go out and play the game of life. Hi, my name is Jay, and over the last 5.5 years, I've been helping people with inner transformation mastery, basically helping them master their emotions, master their inner state, so that they can achieve a level of peak performance, a level of peace, a level of control, a level of purposefulness in their lives that they've never experienced before. So in this video, we're going to talk about trauma and how the word trauma is being overused, it's being abused to a point where it no longer means what it's supposed to mean. The weight of the word is gone. And basically, it's being used as an excuse for people for their bad behavior. Now, I know some people are going to be fuming. They're going to be angry watching this video right now. But if you're one of those people, do not switch this video off. You have to watch it till the end because you're probably the person who needs to hear this the most. So, what are you saying, Jay? Are you saying that trauma doesn't exist, that there is no such thing as trauma? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that trauma means something else. It's not this thing that's happened to you, that's handicapped you, that prevents you from doing something different, that prevents you from growing, that prevents you from changing, that basically takes all of your choice away, so that now you have no option but to hurt yourself or hurt other people because you're traumatized, or you can't do something because you're traumatized. No, trauma is a learning response. If you look at the neurology, let's take an example of a kid who goes and touches the hot stove. And if you're somebody who's done that, right? I know people, I'm sure I've done that. And at some point, I've touched a hot plate or I've touched a hot stove and just pull my hand back, right? It's like a reflex. And then I learn, oh shit, I shouldn't be touching the stove when it's hot because I'm going to get hurt. So it's a learned response, right? And that's essentially what trauma is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a sort of learning. But the problem that we have as human beings is that we take a learning that's relevant in one situation, and then we take it and we apply it to all of life. And then we call it being traumatized. So the way that I have started thinking about trauma is very different. In fact, I don't even like using the word trauma anymore. One of my mentors, instead of using the word trauma, he started using the word impact. And I really like that, because an impact can be positive, an impact can be negative, and it really depends upon the situation, right? One way of dealing with a problem could work really well in a particular situation, but the same problem, the same way, in a different situation could be a disaster. For example, I could be out with my girlfriend and somebody might come in and hit on her, and then maybe in during that point of time, being aggressive could actually be a good way of solving that problem. You raising my voice and scaring and intimidating that person could be a good way of solving that problem. On the other hand, if I'm talking to a client and things aren't going the way that I want it to go, I can't really bully that person into doing things the way I want them to do, right? That would not work. That is not the way to solve that problem. But when people have patterns where they only know one way to solve every problem, and they apply that way for everything in life. So for example, if you're somebody who is, feeling like they're being traumatized, feeling like they're being bullied, feeling that a victim, and you're constantly going into victim mode. Maybe as a kid, that attracted people, probably your parents, and they understood that you needed help and they came to your rescue. The problem is that you're no longer a kid. I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you're probably all grown up. And if you're all grown up and you behave like a victim, blaming trauma, whenever you come across something that is a regular experience in your life, something that's a part of life, like, take your boss being upset with you for something that you did not do correctly, or even if you did it correctly, but maybe you could have done it better, is a part of life. Not being invited to a party is a part of life. People disagreeing with your point of view is a part of everyday life. It's I mean, if you're in a room where everyone agrees with you, well, biggest thing is that you're not going to face any kind of opposition that will challenge you to grow, to actually grow your knowledge, or to actually use critical thinking or reasoning. So it's a waste of time for you to be in that room. But if we kind of use trauma as a scapegoat to protect ourselves from any kind of pain, from any kind of stretching, from any kind of growth, then the consequences are huge. And the conversation, I believe, needs to shift from trauma to impact. Right? So what is the impact of things that have happened to us in the past in our lives today? So let's get one thing straight, that there is real big T trauma. Right? People have gone through that. People who've gone through war zones, people who've gone through calamities, natural calamities, earthquakes, accidents, rape, that exists. And that affects people in a very big way. However, you are also being affected by these smaller impacts that happen in your life all throughout. And these impacts, we can call them micro traumas if you want. But these impacts, what they do is they create patterns in us that from a very young age have been shaping our behavior. So I'll give you an example. If you're somebody who is always in the pursuit of being perfect all the time, somebody who always wants to be seen as good, if you're having trouble relaxing, if you feel guilty about taking time off and you're always working, that is a result of an event in your past, probably in your childhood, that has impacted you to a point where now you have this inner critique in your head that keeps telling you, it's like a teacher or a parent that sits inside your head watching everything you do, and that keeps vigilant and criticizes you if you take the gas pedal off even for 1 second. You relax even for 1 second. Or if you're somebody who cannot help but help other people, so if you're somebody who goes around helping people, overextends yourself, goes past your own boundaries and helps people at the cost of your own well-being. Like, I know somebody who will help everyone, even if somebody stabs them in their back, 5 days later they'll probably go and help that person again. And they can't help but help. They can't help but please others. So these sort of patterns, these everyday sort of patterns, they are the ones that cause the biggest impact in your life. So these are impacts that cause impacts, right? And another one of my mentors, the way that he would call these impactful events are defining moments in life. So I'll give you an example of one of my defining moments. So back when I was about, I think, 15 years old, 16 years old, I decided I wanted to be fit, right? Because I was somebody, as a teenager, a young teenager, I was overweight, I was made fun of, I was bullied. And by the way, not trauma, because all of those things really gave me the motivation to go and step in a gym in the first place, right? And this defining moment happened in the gym. I remember I had been training for a month, 2 months, and my trainer finally decided to give me body weight exercises, because now I'd been training on the machines for a couple of months, and he said, okay, now it's time for you to change things up. So he gave me push-ups, and I remember going down to do a push-up, and I just couldn't do it. And while I was struggling, I was trying to push myself up, and I'm really struggling. I noticed that there are like 3, 4 boys, all older than me, kind of in a group, and they're all looking at me, and they're kind of like snickering. They're like making fun of me. And I don't know if they were actually making fun of me or they were talking about something else. But in that moment, I was so embarrassed. And now you could take that and say, oh, it's trauma. I don't think it was trauma. It was something that impacted me, because right there and there, I decided that I will never, ever be in a situation like that again. I will never allow myself to be so weak. And so I decided that I'm going to really take this fitness thing seriously, and fitness became an obsession for me in a way. And today I'm 36 years old at the time of shooting this video. I'm I'm very happy overall with the way that I've progressed. I started doing sports. I did martial arts. It's really helped me in my life. Having said that, I predict in the future, when I lose my strength, because it's gonna go eventually, right? When I lose my strength, will that strength translate into an inner strength? I don't know. And so maybe in the future, right, I will have to make peace with my own vulnerability, right? And so what I'm trying to demonstrate over here is that that was a defining moment that created an impact in my life. That impact was very good by and large for me, because it helped me become the person that I am today. And it could have been the reason that the gym traumatized me as well. It could have been the reason why I would never step in a gym or never do anything physical again. That was one choice I had. And if I look at everything that's happening to me as bullying, as traumatizing, as abuse, then I'm finished. But I saw that, even at that young age, I saw that as an input in my mind saying, okay, you know what? Kids my age, they value athletics. And you know what? Athletics has a value on its own as well. And let me become more athletic. And what a great lesson that was for me. So athletics has been a part of my life ever since that day. Like, it was a part of my identity, part of my being. If I ever lose athletics, probably it would make me really, really, really sad. But then at that point in time, that would be probably another defining moment, another impactful moment that I would have to relearn and make peace with. So I'm not saying to you that your traumas aren't real. But what I'm saying to you is, if you keep collecting your traumas and like Pokemon cards, and kind of holding on to them, instead of using that information to actually identify what you need to do in order to move forward in your life, what you need to do in order to grow past this particular experience in your life. If you're just going to hold on to it like Pokemon cards and collect your traumas, then pretty soon you're going to have a whole deck of cards, right? And a whole set of fears that's going to prevent you from getting the dream career that you want, having the dream relationship that you want, making money, living the life that you could live, and really enjoying yourself to the fullest, exploring your potential to the fullest. I've become quite anti trauma, the way that it's the word is used. And the kind of impact that I really want you to pay attention to is not really the bigger traumas in life, although they might affect you too. But the small things, like, when you over explain yourself, like, too much, because you think people won't understand you, or if you just have this hard time saying no to people, and you keep doing things for other people even if it makes you unhappy. It's the small things like that. These are the patterns that end up impacting your life in a way that you cannot even imagine. And it's very important for you to know your own pattern. So, my invitation to you now is, if you're somebody who's feeling stuck in life, if you're somebody who maybe is, you've got a career, maybe you made some money, but you feel stuck. You feel like your life is just not moving forward. Maybe your relationships are in shambles. Maybe sometimes you do things that you don't even know who to blame, and you're probably thinking to yourself, why did I do that thing? Why do I do things that hurt me? Why do I do things that hurt the people that I love? I'm just not able to move beyond this feeling of stuckness. And if that's you, I've got something that is magical. I want you to go to the description and look for a link to click for a personality assessment test. Now, when you do this test, you're going to get a result that is so accurate. It will tell you your patterns so accurately of what you're facing today and actually what you need to do in order for you to move forward in your life. And we might even be doing like a free session for anybody who does that test, but very limited slots, because I can't promise that you'll get the free session, but the test is free. So go down to the link below, click on it, find out what your true patterns are, the result of the actual trauma, the result of the actual impact. I hate that word trauma, but the actual impact that you've gone through in your life. It's time to learn from these experiences. It's time to use trauma to actually grow. Let's not get stuck in post-traumatic stress. Let's move forward to post-trauma growth. Don't let trauma become the scapegoat. Make it something that you can use to help you take your life from where it is right now to where you want it to be. Use it for inner transformation mastery. And your journey begins by clicking on that link. And of course, don't forget to like this video if you liked it, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know if this spoke to you. And even if you're angry, let me know if you're angry about this video, because I want to hear from you. Either way, I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.